smile. Oh.
Jane Malcolm has advanced malignant melanoma. Recently, Jane discovered that this cancer has spread to her brain. Jane decided to go home to be cared for by her parents for the time that remains.
She's 42, and she's just recently trained as a lawyer, but that sort of fits with her personality. She's very incisive. You can't get away with a half answer. She will press in to make sure that she gets her questions answered. She's an outdoor person. She loves to go tramping. She's a very slight woman. She's only, in a normal, healthy life, only a bit over 50 kgs. So, but she loves the bush and the outdoors. And one of the treats that she gave her nephews, two of her nephews, once they get to 10, was to take them on an overnight excursion with Auntie Jane. They'd go into the bush and live in a hut. And so, yeah, she's a family woman. She doesn't have her own family, but she was very much committed to our family environment. I've watched my parents die. I've dealt with old people dying, but it's not the normal order of things that one ends up having potentially to nurse one's children through to death. And like I was saying before, just the way that you can give yourself to her in this period. You know, it may be a short period, but you can give yourself to her in ways you wouldn't do. I think it's opened up for me new dimensions of affection for her. Sometimes our eyes just lock and we'll just look at each other, and then she'll smile at me, and she's got a great smile.
It was just a given that I was fit enough to do this. I wanted to do it. If we were going to lose her, then I thought if the rest of her life's compacted into 2 or 3 weeks, months, or whatever that was, then we need to make the most of it, because we will lose, well, for our lifetime, 20 years of her life or 30 years of her life. And so I wanted to make the most of that and have her while we could. And I've been amazed at how well supported we are by the system, that it's been far better than I thought it would be.
Denzel Menzies has advanced kidney cancer. Denzel received chemotherapy and radiotherapy to control this cancer, which cannot be cured. Denzel makes the most of his remaining life at home with his wife, supported by his family and the local hospice team.
I don't know what I felt at that time, whether it was disappointment, anger, sorrow, fear. I just accepted it as what it was, and my whole attitude at that time was, okay, I've got it, let's deal with it and do what's possible. He told me from his opinion, but he's not an oncologist, that it was something very serious and I needed to act very fast. The pain reached levels that I never knew existed. I didn't know what to expect. I was having morphine, the SOS morphine also, and the breakthrough morphine, and nothing seemed to help. I would just go through that whole cycle of pain, and maybe it's because I had so much morphine, I would just fall off asleep, or my body just couldn't take any more, and I would knock off. And then I think that few hours that I would sleep, maybe an hour or two maybe, that must have been the time I got some relief. But when I woke up again, the pain was there, and it was terrible. I really at that time didn't want to live. At that time when I was in the pain, I thought that was it, my life was over and that finished. I didn't know, I think I would survive even till today. But I am very happy euthanasia was not on the table then. It was not an option.
We have a high value of human life, and just the things we've been able to bless Jane with, and it's brought up in ourselves, you know, even from a selfish point of view. You know, I wouldn't have wanted this any other way. And you don't know, the medical prognosis for Jane at the time was very brief, and it's now 12 weeks
Yes, right.
from the time she was admitted to hospital. So you just don't know. I mean, if a decision had been taken to shorten her life, 2 months ago, we would have missed 2 months of stuff that I just wouldn't have wanted to have missed.
I was in pain for about 2.5 months, roughly. Yeah, it was even worse than the first time. But I took it all in the stride because I knew now that there was an option. There was pain relief. Medical facilities here, the doctors, the nurses, the frontline staff are brilliant. The care they took, my oncologist would call me late night also to find out how I was doing. He said, text him, phone him. He gave me his personal numbers, call me at any time, he said. And he was there to help me out with advice or suggestions or just to talk to at any time. I was also referred to the Mercy Hospice, and their community nurses and the team out there were absolutely brilliant with their support. The nurses would come out on a routine every week to see me, even oftener if I needed it. In the rough days, they were coming almost every second day or so just to make sure things were going. They kept in touch with the GP, the specialists and everybody. And I knew that there was help, there was hope, and this was not the end. And I'm glad I didn't have that option, because here I am today.
A couple of weeks ago I said to her, I am so impressed with your courage in the midst of suffering. And she looked up at me and said, I'm not suffering. And so I was really quite gobsmacked by that one.
My son was to get married in November. In fact, today it's a year and 1 day. At that time, it looked as that I would not be there. But I promised him that I would be at his wedding and I would dance at his wedding. And that's what I did. And had I opted for euthanasia in those months of June, or May, June or something like that, I would not have been there.
Euthanasia is defined as a doctor deliberately ending the life of a patient. People suggest that this act of killing should be legalised. People suffering with advanced disease, facing imminent death, disagree.
I would say to them, and particularly to those who say yes, why are you saying yes? Have you gone through this experience? Do you know what it is to have a life-threatening illness? Why do you want to end a person's life? Is it because, I would say, like a caregiver might find the person to be too much of a burden? The family might find it too much of a burden? Or do you think that they're just going to be economically useless to you or to the country? They're going to be a financial drain. Is that the reason why you want to end somebody's life? I am afraid that when such a law is passed, families will make decisions because they find, okay, this person is a drain now on the family resources and finance.
That would be a serious retrograde step. I think, because I think about what might happen with that, because, Margie manages all Jane's drugs. If she was inclined towards euthanasia, it wouldn't be hard. And so what do you do with that? How does that affect the way that people can care if you decriminalise the taking of life? Then that just opens the door. It's really interesting. I know one of the arguments against has been that relatives would feel pressure. Even Jane twice has said, I'm a burden to you. Now, we affirm that she's not a burden to us, that we're honoured, we're privileged to be able to do this with her. But you imagine that in a family context where the person was, was thought to be just a weight around the family's neck or whatever. I think the pressure would be huge for somebody to sign a consent or whatever would be required. Because Jane doesn't think like that. She wouldn't be saying, I'm a burden to you, therefore end my life for me. She just was conscious that she's an extra pressure in the house. But that could easily be heard the wrong way. I think it'd be really, really difficult, even if you wanted to draw boundaries around this that wouldn't leak substantially.
Organisations like the hospice need support. Public support as well as government support. That's what the legislators should be doing, not thinking about how they can kill us off.
Human life is really precious. And I have seen people get well after serious illnesses. People who have been diagnosed as having something that is possibly terminal or certainly very debilitating, who've had extra years.
I don't recall meeting any cancer patient who wants to end their life. Cancer patients are coming to doctors for what? To end their lives? No, they're coming to save their lives.
Step by step, catch your breath. Who's gonna walk you back to bed? Step by step, catch your breath. Who's gonna walk you the last mile home?